Just Jayādvaita.
No, Hare Krishna mantra.
Should I start?
Yes, start.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai.
Jai Om Srimad Bhagavatam Prabhupada Bhaktarja Shloka Srishana A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kundu Radha Kundi Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Tham Ki Jai Navadvip Tham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Gangamai Ki Jai Shamanamai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Gaur.
Welcome everybody to Srimad Bhagavatam reading with His Holiness Jayādvaita Swami. It is Monday, January 19th, 2026, and we are beginning with 425.8.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 And we're here just arrived in Brisbane, and we're at the house of Shaki Roy Prabhu. Ete tvam sampratikshante smaranto vaishashantava samparetam ayakutais chintantyutita manyavaha. All these animals are awaiting your death so that they can avenge the injuries you have inflicted upon them. After you die, they will angrily pierce your body with iron horns. Purport. Nard Muni wanted to draw King Prachiniparhishat's attention to the excesses of killing animals in sacrifices. It is said in the Shastras that by killing animals in a sacrifice, one immediately promotes them to human birth. Similarly, by killing their enemies on a battlefield, the Kshatriyas who fight for a right cause are elevated to the heavenly planets after death. In Manu Samhita, it is stated that it is necessary for a king to execute a murderer so that the murderer will not suffer for his criminal actions in his next life. On the basis of such understanding, Nard Muni warns the king that the animals killed and sacrificed by the king await him at his death in order to avenge themselves. Nard Muni is not contradicting himself here. Nard Muni wanted to convince the king that overindulgence in animal sacrifice is risky, because as soon as there's a small discrepancy in the execution of such a sacrifice, the slaughtered animal may not be promoted to a human form of life. Consequently, the person performing sacrifice will be responsible for the death of the animal, just as much as a murderer is responsible for killing another man. One moment. When animals are killed in a slaughterhouse, 6 people connected with the killing are responsible for the murder. The person who gives permission for the killing, the person who kills, the person who helps, the person who purchases the meat, the person who cooks the flesh, and the person who eats it, all become entangled in the killing. Nard Muni wanted to draw the king's attention to this fact. Thus, animal killing is not encouraged even in a sacrifice. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurn Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tadhati Shapadantikam Bandehang Shri Guru Shri Jatapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Shagrashatam Bhagana Bhaganatam Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Pradijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Bhagana Lodita Sri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Korira Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosante Bhakta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hori Priye Vansha Gopatagupyascha Kripa Sindho Pyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Vivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we're reading about King Prachini, descendant of Dhruva Maharaj, who was overly engaged in karmakandya activities, and particularly in animal sacrifice. And Nard Muni wants to deliver him from karmakandya altogether, and in particular from this business of killing animals. So he tells the king that all these animals that you've killed are waiting for you. They'll remember what you did to them, the injuries you inflicted, and after their death, they'll pierce your body with their horns, iron horns, chindanti. In Bhagavad Gita, nainam chindanti shastran, the nainam danti pavaka. The soul can't be withered by the wind and can't be pierced by any weapon, but certainly the body can. And the king was more or less in the bodily concept of life, otherwise why is he performing these ritualistic activities? And so the king, Nard Muni, points out to him that you think that this is very good, that you'll be elevated in the next life, but here's what's lined up for you. The animals will have their revenge. Prabhupada points out that the animal sacrifice is risky because as soon as there's some small discrepancy, then you're responsible. That happened in the case of King Nrga. He was so charitable, but one small discrepancy, one of his cows was given twice to two different Brahmins, and the king had to become a lizard. So the business of karmakandya is more or less to try to balance things out so that I can enjoy, but I won't get hit by suffering because I'll be performing pious activities. I'll be performing sacrifices. Even the demons do that. What is that? The Bhagavad Gita. Yakshe dasyami modishya yaganapi mohita. The demons are puffed up by false prestige. They're thinking, who's greater than I? I'm surrounded by aristocratic people, by my friends, by my relatives. So I've killed my enemies. I'll kill more of my enemies. And yakshe dasyami modishya. I'll perform sacrifices and I'll give charity And this way I'll enjoy. Ajnana, vimohita, bewildered by illusion, they think in this way. So the Malamaya Duratya, Maya, material energy is not so easy to trick. What's meant to, if I take the mentality of an enjoyer trying to exploit the resources of this material world, inevitably I'll be implicated in the karmic reactions. Of course, by performing sacrifice to Vishnu, one gets freed from karmic reactions. But when one's sacrifices in the ordinary ritualistic way for the sake of sense gratification, one is involved in risky business. And then here, if there's some discrepancy, then one becomes implicated in ordinary animal killing in the name of sacrifice. Nama yagyaste. And Prabhupada points out it's like a conspiracy. When an animal is killed, then there are various perpetrators who are all involved. The person who kills the animal, the person who permits the killing, the person who helps, who purchases the meat, who cooks the flesh, who serves, who eats. All of these various parties become implicated. In the slaughterhouse business, people don't know how they're becoming implicated. The person who's raising the animal, yes, but the person who's selling at the supermarket, the person who's transporting the animal, the person who's cooking, the person who's eating, all implicated. So Narad Muni is pointing these things out. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments, they are waiting for you, thinking, when will he die? They remember that you cut their bodies, Vaishasam. They will cut you with horns made of iron when you are dead. He speaks in the present tense to indicate that the time is not far off. Okay, any questions or comments?
Nothing in the chat.
Nothing in the chat, okay.
And a hand from Sadhu Sevan Prabhu.
Yes.
Please go ahead, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
We don't hear you.
Hare Krishna. Am I audible, Maharaj?
Now you are.
Yes. Okay. So, Maharaj, my question is because King Pratin, he was a Kshatriya. And for Kshatriya, he has to go for hunting so that it can help them when they actually go for a war. Prabhupada also recommends that. But why, in this case, when King Prachin Barishat is doing the animal sacrifice, why is he not encouraged by Narada in that case?
Yes, it's if you perform sacrifice and you do it right, then you won't be implicated. And the Kshatriyas have some right to hunt and to kill animals. But one gets carried away. Lord Buddha appeared. I think that comes in a coming purport. Because in the name of animal sacrifice, people were just killing wholesale. So here also, what is the purpose of life? The purpose of life is self-realization, devotional service, spiritual cultivation. And instead, the king, Prachini Barhishat, is basically focused on activities for material advancement. These karma kandi activities are meant for material advancement, which means enjoying the senses, enjoying this way, that way. If you do everything precisely right, maybe you won't be implicated, but the chances are that you may do something wrong. The mantra is not chanted exactly right, or one discrepancy or another, and now you're responsible. Now you're responsible. Like doing something that's not exactly illegal, but is borderline. As long as you don't cross the line, you won't wind up in court. But as soon as you go, because you're right on the edge already, as soon as you go over, now you're going to be hauled into court. You're going to be implicated in all sorts of troubles. If you're just doing a normal legal business, you don't have that problem. But if you've got all these things going on the side that maybe there's a little tax evasion here and a little funny business there. Why? Because I'm greedy. I won't be satisfied. Why? I'm getting my livelihood. It's all right. No, we want to push it. How to have more, how to have greater enjoyment, greater prosperity. Yeah, all right. But when you push it, then how do you push it? You have to do something extra. And the more we do extra, the more we risk becoming implicated in the complexities of action and reaction. Therefore, kamasya nendriya pritir labho jiveta yavata Bhagavatam. One shouldn't desire to increase one's sense gratification. One should just be satisfied with what's enough and dedicate oneself to spiritual advancement. So Narad Muni is seeing that here's this descendant of Dhruva Maharaj. He should be living like that, satisfied with what comes of its own accord, and engage himself for Krishna consciousness. And instead, this ritual, that ritual, this sacrifice, that sacrifice, with the idea of advancement in material life. So that's risky, always. Is that all right? Okay. There's something in the chat now.
Saraswati Mashi writes, Pranams Param Pujya Gurudev and all the Vaishnavas. We know Vaishnava Aparad is fatal. So, can we say someone like Dhritarashtra achieved all spiritual perfection from successfully attained yogic perfection from meditation? Srila Prabhupada says in a verse that he didn't achieve pure bhakti due to envy of Pandavas, but elsewhere said he achieved highest perfection of spiritual identity. So at local Srimad Bhagavatam classes, all are confused.
Highest perfection of spiritual identity is different from bhakti. He realized, I'm not this body, I'm spirit soul. He'd been thinking, I'm the king, my sons are my successors, the Pandavas are my enemies. He'd been thinking in the bodily concept of life. But by the grace of Vidura, he got free from that and came to the perfection of understanding. I have nothing to do with this material world. I'm pure spirit soul. I have nothing to gain here. So that perfection, not the perfection of being engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Vidura would have liked that, but it wasn't possible for Dhritarashtra on account of his offenses to Krishna's devotees, the Pandavas. It was wonderful that he was able to achieve what he did after a lifetime of sinful activities and material attachment. He attained freedom by the grace of a Vaishnava, but he wasn't able to attain the perfection of devotional service. Hare Krishna. Shamsundu Prabhu, yes. The hand went away and I haven't heard from Shamsundu. Is there a question?
Oh, sorry, I was still on mute.
Okay.
So I was wondering, Maharaj, the question is, this mercy that the king got from Narada Muni was due to his being in the line of truth. Here's Prahlad Maharaj.
You're not so clear. If you speak a little louder and more slowly, I guess that may help.
How do I sound now?
Not bad.
So this mercy that the king got from Narada Muni was because of his coming in an exalted line under Dhruva Maharaj, and we hear with Prahlad Maharaj, Nrsimhadev says that because of his qualifications, even his family members get purified. Is this an example of that kind of concept or something different?
Yeah. Well, it's two things. One is that a devotee is causelessly merciful. Patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo. So he can give mercy anywhere, and he's inclined to give mercy. So many people come in touch, not so many, but some fortunate souls come in touch with Narada Muni, and for various reasons or no reason, Narada gives them the seed of devotional service, and they're able to attain perfection. But in this particular case, yes, there's also a definite reason that he's coming in the line of Dhruva Maharaj. So there's natural affection and natural magnanimity or grace for a descendant of such a great devotee of the Lord. That's natural. We'll also be like that. We have some disciple or devotee or member of our group, and he's such a nice devotee, but his son is like just missing it all, wasting his time in video games and nonsense. Or a little older, he's getting involved in bad things. So as a devotee, you may think, but he's the son of such and such. This shouldn't be happening. Ordinary person, it's expected, but he's the son of a devotee. So let me try to do something for him. That's natural. Is that okay?
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj. Yes.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, we can.
Praveen Prabhu
Oh, yes.
writes, so later when Prachina Bari attained perfection, what happened to the animals wanting revenge?
Oh, it's not mentioned, but if we were to speculate, we could say, well, too bad. They wanted revenge and they didn't get it. We don't always get what we want. So they were waiting, it's like waiting for someone to show up so you can shoot him, but he doesn't show up. Something happens and you don't get your chance. So that's possible. The animals wanted revenge and they didn't get revenge. That's how it goes sometimes. Or we can think that, well, he became Krishna conscious, and if someone becomes Krishna conscious, then everyone becomes pleased. That to want revenge against a Vaishnava is not very good. Actually, to want revenge is not very good. What will revenge do for us? It just links us to further resentment and further entanglement in material activities. So better to be free from this desire. Let me get revenge. By Krishna's arrangement, something happened to me. It's not the so-called thief or so-called aggressor that has put me into trouble. it's my own karma, atmakritam. I did it to myself. I set myself up for this by my own materialistic or sinful activities. And now Krishna is giving me only a little bit. So devotee thinks like that, and others. So a fortunate person or doesn't think, let me get revenge, let me get revenge, let me get revenge. He thinks, let me forgive. At least a sadhu thinks like that. A materialistic person may go on this way. Let me get revenge. And when they get revenge, they're not satisfied. Either he should have suffered more, or yeah, that's typical. That should have suffered more. This one should have suffered also, or whatever. But it's not that by revenge. Now my heart is fully satisfied and my life is wonderful. It doesn't work that way. So a sadhu tries to forgive and becomes free from that desire. And or when we see that someone becomes a sadhu, then we think, no, now what is that? Tepustapaste. He's chanted the holy name of the Lord. He's engaged in devotional service of the Lord. He's already performed every kind of penance, every kind of, what do they call that? Yeah, penance. And he's already done everything. So I can't hold it against him anymore. He's become a saint. When he was a materialist, stick it to him. Why should he enjoy that such and such? Why should he enjoy? But now he's become a saint. He's not an enjoyer or a sufferer. He's no longer the cause of this or that. He's become one of Krishna's dear devotees. So now it won't be very good for me to hold resentment against the devotee, because the devotee is dear to Krishna. That amounts to being having resentment toward Krishna. That verse is there someplace that Dhritarashtra was told, no, Dhritarashtra, Duryodhana, I think, that because you're envious of the Pandavas. Anyone who's envious of the Pandavas is envious of me. Anyone who's envious of the Pandavas is envious of me. So, of course, we don't know exactly about these animals and what they're waiting to do. But when a person becomes a Vaishnava, and he's outside it's no longer a fit object for revenge. And if we team up with the revenge seekers, that's not very good for us. Yeah, they deserve revenge. That means staying in the material world. The natural tendency of devotees is to forgive. And apart from that, we should be warned that vengeance against Vaishnavas will not be auspicious at all. All right, I would have liked to have had revenge, but he became a saint. What can I do? And that's better. Okay. There's another question.
Saraswati Mashi writes, we have some beginner devotees in congregation who work at McDonald's, but give donation to ISKCON, so they think that is atonement. Is that correct thinking?
No. No, it's not correct. Of course, they're giving, certainly some benefit will be there, but with this kind of idea, well, I'll do this, but I'll do that. You know, I may work at McDonald's and serve animal flesh, but I'll give some, I'll give $30 a week to ISKCON, and then it won't affect me. Oh, just as Prabhupada says in the purport, a little discrepancy, and then slam, now you're responsible for the whole thing. So, of course, we can sympathize with devotees or anyone who, because of circumstances, gets implicated in some nasty, sinful job. Every job has some sinful activities attached. What is that in the Bhagavad Gita? Tumenagni ivavrita. Just as fire is covered by smoke, sarva, all activities have some sadosha, some fault, but not tyajate. One should not give up one's occupational duties because of some fault. If I take up something else, that'll have fault. But these activities are specifically very sinful. And we're warned. Why are we warned? So that we won't do it. It's not just information. By the way, what you're doing is sinful. Just thought you'd like to know. No, we've informed you so that you can stop. So that you can stop. The hunter who was made a Vaishnava by Narad, first thing he stopped killing the animals. So, of course, it may be difficult and jobs are hard to find, and maybe McDonald's pay is good or has good hours or whatever. But there's so many jobs in the world. If we give up that one, Krishna will find another job for us. Not that let me continue my sinful activities and have it all be purified because I give a donation at the Hare Krishna temple. And especially if we think, yes, but let me chant Hare Krishna and then it'll go away. That becomes committing sin on the strength of sinful activity, which is not at all good. Offense to the holy name. There's another comment there someplace.
Raveen Prabhu writes, maybe after becoming a devotee, we are not much wanting revenge, but we do not want to keep any relationship with the person, nor wishing well for him/her.
Well, it's hard. When someone has insulted us, when a person has cheated us, when a person has defamed us, then we're not, it's not so easy just to say, oh, well. But as far as possible, yasman nod vijate loko, lokan nod vijate. One should try not to agitate others or be agitated by others. Tulya ninda stutir moni santushta yena kena. Tulya nindatma samstutihi. One should try to have equanimity. All right, you cause me trouble or you bring some benefit. Either way, it's ordained by Krishna. Prabhupada told our friend that Peter Gurdwatch, that don't blame the instrument of your karma. Don't blame the instrument of your karma, your own karma. So this is the position of a saintly person. And yes, it's hard. There's a song, I mentioned it last meeting, that Hari Parshad has explained in his seminar on Chaitanya Shikshashtakam, in which the Maharashtrian poet expresses that he desires nothing but good for his critic, his so-called enemy. And it's a very instructive and beautiful song. But perhaps we're not up to that. But we should try. And all right, maybe I won't keep a relationship with that person. That's all right. We wish him well. We're not going to make him our bosom buddy, but still we wish him well. May he prosper, may he go back to Godhead. But it may not be that he's now somehow going to become among my most intimate and dear friends. That's not a requirement, but at least, all right, we wish him well. As far as our hearts can find that. Is that all right? Okay. Shall we move forward? Atrate katiyashye mum itihasam puratanam puranjanasya choritam nibodha gadato mama. In this connection, I wish to narrate an old history connected with the character of a king called Puranjan. Please try to hear me with great attention. Purport: the great sage Narad Muni turned toward another topic, the history of King Puranjana. This is nothing but the history of King Prachinibarhishat, told in a different way. In other words, this is an allegorical presentation. The word Puranjana means one who enjoys in a body. This is clearly explained in the next few chapters. Because a person entangled in material activities wants to hear stories of material activities, Narad Muni turned to the topic of King Puranjana, who is none other than King Prachinibarhishat. Narad Muni did not directly deprecate the value of performing sacrifices in which animals are sacrificed. Lord Buddha, however, directly rejected all animal sacrifice. Okay, there's a lot here. We'll see how much we can cover. The first point is that this is an allegorical story. We'll hear of it in perhaps 5 chapters. And it's directly said to be allegorical. The Acharyas have pointed it out to be allegorical, and as we'll see, it's clearly that's what it is. So Bhagavatam has stories that are meant to be stories. This doesn't mean that we can then take every story in the Bhagavatam and say, oh, that's just an allegory, that's just a... but because the Srila Prabhupada will present it, no, these are literal, these things literally happened. But sometimes, no, it didn't happen, it's a story. We find this device used in various places in the Bhagavatam. King Yayati tells his wife Devayani about a story about a he-goat and a she-goat, and how the lusty he-goat became attached to the lusty she-goat, and so on. So, of course, he was the lusty he-goat, she was the she-goat. But if I tell the story straightforward, I'm just like a lusty goat, and you're no better than a lusty goat, then the mind kicks in and says, what do you mean I'm a lusty goat? You're nonsense, this, that. We resist, we rebel, we object. But when it's put in the form of a story about somebody else, Then we hear it with interest, and by our own internal process, we may get it. Oh, that sounds like me. I think in psychology, this may be called transderivational search. We hear something, and we naturally look to understand, how does this apply to me, or what is the context of this? So without my having to say, this is a story about you under a different title, I'll naturally hear the story and understand something about it and apply it to my own circumstances. So this is one method of teaching, one tool in teaching, and it's adopted by Narad Muni. I think in Bhishmath, in his commentary, Narad considered, I will enlighten the king who is fond of material stories with this material story. I will awaken him to his condition by relating a different story using the ornament of aprastuta prashansa, conveying the message of something which is different. It's actually the same, but it's someone like you. It's someone like you. I know someone who came from the same town that you came from. And actually, he had the same issue that you're dealing with. And then I tell about how that person solved that issue, or what he realized about this issue. The meaning of the sentence is clear. However, actually, this is a story about you, who create janayati, your body, puram, puranjana, by your actions. You've created, is a story about you who created your body by your actions. The body is the city, and you're the person who's created this body. So it's really a story about you. That's who King Puranjana is. It is ancient because it starts before you entered the womb of your mother. So, Itihasam Puratam, it's an old history. It started long ago. So Narada didn't directly reject all sacrifices. There's a morning walk where Srila Prabhupada is talking to Dr. Patel on Juhu Beach, and Dr. Patel is rejecting animal sacrifice as sinful and immoral, and Prabhupada says, no. Can also be done, but it has to be done according to the Vedic rules. So the Narada doesn't reject all sacrifices, but Buddha does. If people are going to justify animal killing on the basis of the Vedas, I'll just reject the Vedas. That was his strategy. Srila Jayadeva Goswami has stated, Nindasi yagya vidher ahaha shruti jatam. The word shruti jatam indicates that in the Vedas, animal sacrifice is recommended. But Lord Buddha directly denied Vedic authority in order to stop animal sacrifice. Consequently, Lord Buddha is not accepted by the followers of the Vedas. His instructions are not accepted. Because he does not accept the authority of the Vedas, Lord Buddha is depicted as an agnostic or atheist. The great sage Narada cannot decry the authority of the Vedas, but he wanted to indicate to King Prachini Barhishat that the path of karma kanda is very difficult and risky. Let's see. Okay, I think we can do it. Foolish persons accept the difficult path of karmakanda for the sake of sense enjoyment. And those who are too much attached to sense enjoyment are called mudhas, rascals. It is very difficult for a mudha to understand the ultimate goal of life. In the propagation of the Krishna consciousness movement, we actually see that many people are not attracted because they're mudhas, engaged in fruitive activity. It is said, Upadesho hi murkhanam prakopaya nashantaye. If good instructions are given to a foolish rascal, he simply becomes angry and turns against the instructions instead of taking advantage of them. Because Narad Muni knew this very well, he indirectly instructed the king by giving him the history of his entire life. Again, this is a strategy for preventing rejection. Just like when scientists want to, doctors, they want to implant some tissue to help cure a burn or something like that. So they have to deal with the tendency of the body to reject what seems like a foreign introduction. So they have this or that measure that they take. Otherwise, automatically, hey, this is foreign, we reject this. So similarly, I tell a story, I'll say, Rasananda, this is nonsense, you should stop. Rasananda thinks, what do you mean it's nonsense? I thought about it, I know what I'm doing. But if I tell him a story about someone else and what happened to him by doing the same thing, then Rasananda, now he's not directly in the crosshairs, he may think, And by comparison to his own self, he may think, this is not very good, I should stop. So, because Narad Muni knew that you give instructions and people reject them, or become angry, he indirectly instructed the king by giving him the history of his entire life. In order to wear a gold or diamond nose pin or earring, one has to pierce the ear or nose. Such pain endured for the sake of sense gratification is endured on the path of karma kanda, the path of fruitive activity. If one wishes to enjoy something in the future, he has to endure trouble in the present. If one wants to become a millionaire in the future and enjoy his riches, he has to work very hard at the present moment in order to accumulate money. This is karmakandya. Those too much attracted to such a path undergo the risk anyway. Narad Muni wanted to show King Prachini Barhishat how one undergoes great troubles and miseries in order to engage in fruitive activity. A person who is very much attached to material activity is called Vishayi. A Vishayi is an enjoyer of Vishay, which means eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Narad Muni is indirectly indicating through the story of King Puranjana that eating, sleeping, mating, and defending are troublesome and risky. The words itihasam, history, and puratanam, old, indicate that although a living entity lives within the material body, the history of the living entity within the material body is very old. In this regard, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has sung, Anadi Karama Pale, Pari Bhavarna Vajale, Tori Vare Na Dekhi Upai. Due to my past fruitive activities, I have fallen into the water of material existence, and I cannot find any way to get out of it. Every living entity is suffering in this material existence from past activities. Therefore, everyone has a very old history. Foolish material scientists have manufactured their own theories of evolution, which are simply concerned with the material body. But actually, this is not the real evolution. The real evolution is the history of the living entity, who is Puranjana, living within the body. Sri Narad Muni will explain this evolutionary theory in a different way for the understanding of sane persons. I'm reading an interesting essay, concerning Srila Prabhupada's take on evolution. And, well, it would take a while to unpack, but pointing out that Prabhupada's objection here is particularly that scientists are missing the point. Instead of seeing that the living entity is in trouble, they're busy trying to see how the bodily development takes place. So they're missing the point. That's the worst of it. But that's a big topic, and our time has expired. We can stop here. Thank you all very much. Well, let's take Praveen's comment. Although an allegory, it fuses in some facts. For example, in the story, the woman Jara wanted to marry Narada, a real personality who refuses her. Hence, Narada was cursed by her to not be able to stay at a place for long. Yeah, well, that's part of what analogies or allegories do. They're fictional, but they're not very far from the truth. And they may also incorporate something that is known, some history or whatever. But the point is deeper than just a history lesson or an anatomy lesson or something like that. There's a deeper truth to it, and that's what's given here. Okay, and who wants to lead Kirtan? Here or there? Do it again? Okay, you're on.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Jai Om Vishnuvad Purnamamsa Parivrajakacharya Stotra Sri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Nama Acharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamana Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. Sadhu Sevans asked whether this meeting goes on 4 days a week at 10 o'clock in Brisbane. Yes, it does. Even when I'm not in Brisbane, this is the time. We're doing it wherever I am in the world. I try to keep this going. So whether I'm here or not, it's 10 a.m. every Monday through Thursday in Brisbane. And you're always welcome. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande. Hare Hare.